Let's get this started. Welcome everyone to Givepact Crypto Philanthropy 101. We're doing this especially for Waco nonprofits in partnership with the Internet Bar and Joseph de Cordova Society. A few quick housekeeping notes before we get into the content. Number one, this webinar will be recorded, so it'll be available to share on demand with colleagues or anyone else in the community that you might think would be interested. Please keep your mics muted during the duration of the webinar, but please, do introduce yourself in the chat, ask questions in the chat, and we will have an opportunity to ask some questions at the end as well, if you like, with voice. And we won't run too long. I know the invite for this is for an hour and a half window, but I doubt we'll go that long. So don't worry too much if you have other things to do. So real quick, what is Givepact? Givepact is a platform that makes crypto philanthropy easy and innovative. And we have three primary products. One is a marketplace website where anyone can donate crypto assets to over 500,000 different nonprofits across the US. Those donations come to our 501c3, the Givepact Charitable Foundation. We convert the crypto assets to cash and then send them out to the nonprofits. Number two, we have support for donor advised funds where crypto holders can deposit assets, get a tax deduction immediately and then issue grants over time. And lastly, within the next few weeks, we're launching a donation API so that crypto builders can integrate donations directly into their platforms, which is very exciting. A little bit about us. Alicia, who just joined, is my co-founder. She's a CEO and co-founder. She's also the director of digital at the Innocence Project. She has a long history of working in technology in the nonprofit space, just helping nonprofits grow. I have a similar background. I'm the founder of a nonprofit growth agency called Blue Wing. I've worked with dozens of nonprofits over the last 8 years, primarily helping them with Google and Meta advertising. And Alicia and I have been in, sort of dabbled in the crypto space and following it since 2017. And what we saw was a big explosion in crypto philanthropy in 2021 during that sort of the last big bull market cycle. And Givepact was really for us, a way to bring together our interests in helping nonprofits raise money online, and also our interest in crypto, this emerging asset class that was taking off and continues to grow. So Givepact really brings together, again, our experience in nonprofit fundraising on that side of our careers, but then also our interest in crypto and just sort of bringing it all together. We are also doing this webinar in partnership with the Jacob de Cordova Society. So I do want to give Jeff a minute here just to introduce himself and just hit on a few points.
Thanks very much, Stephen and Alicia. A few weeks back, I listened to a program where they were presenting along with several other people who are working in the crypto philanthropy space. And it was clear to me that significant opportunity exists for nonprofits. And Waco is filled with many nonprofits who are doing great work. But access to donations and access to support certainly depends upon a constant effort on the part of those people running the nonprofits to reach out to their communities. And yet what was clear in listening to this program of crypto philanthropy is that many nonprofits are not yet accessing this space. And that's really a significant opportunity for people to be able to pay attention to. I mentioned the Waco 175 Celebration Series. We are doing a series of events this year as part of Waco's 175th anniversary, including expert events where we are working to take the vision of the founder of Waco, Jacob de Cordova, back in 1849, who made the first map, which then ultimately led to a lot of immigrants coming into and settling here in the Central Texas area. And then over the course of the first few years, it became clear that Waco would become a place that would be central to Texas itself. And that was the creation of the suspension bridge, which ultimately became the place where the cattle drives crossed on the Chisholm Trail and became very important. It's time for a new bridge. It's time for a bridge into the future. And the purpose of this particular program is to introduce the Waco nonprofit community to the fifth largest asset class in the world, where there are a lot of millennials wanting to donate to causes, and we should be there and ready. And that's why I reached out to Stephen and Alicia and asked them to introduce this topic to the Waco nonprofit community. This is really something that Derek Winkler and I are very interested in. And to the extent that there is interest, we will form a local group here in Waco on an ongoing basis to share the knowledge that we're gaining, to learn from all of you who may be interested in this crypto area. So back to you, Stephen.
Thanks, Jeff. And we're really excited to host the Waco community today. So let's get into it. So what we discovered early in our Givepact journey is that 99% of the 1.5 million nonprofits in the US weren't set up to accept crypto donations despite a massive growth in giving. The giving that was happening was really concentrated amongst sort of the upper echelon, the 1% of the 501c3s in the US. So from 2020 to 2021, crypto giving grew 16x year over year, from just 4 million in 2020 to 70 million in 2021, just through a platform called the Giving Block. And what's interesting about crypto donations is that the average crypto gift is $10,000 compared to $100 in cash. And I'll explain a little bit why, from a tax perspective, that makes sense and why we're seeing it. And just to give you sort of a little bit of a picture of more recent data in 2024, in 2021, Fidelity Charitable took in $250 million of Bitcoin donations into their donor advised fund. And they exceeded that. They took in 300 million in the Q1 of this year. So we're seeing sustained support, sustained giving in crypto, especially the major assets like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and USDC, which is a stable coin, continue to grow as this emerging asset class grows. The reason, we mentioned, that crypto gifts tend to be much higher than cash, and that's really because of tax purposes. Crypto, from a tax perspective, is treated like any other non-cash asset in the eyes of the IRS. So while the crypto regulation in general, there's a lot of gray area, there's a lot of open-ended conversations about where it's going to go. One thing has been crystal clear since the inception of Bitcoin, and that's the IRS treats it as a non-cash asset from a donation perspective. And we don't expect that to change at all, even as crypto regulation evolves. And so that means crypto, similar to stocks or private equity shares or real estate, when you donate it to a nonprofit, you don't pay capital gains on the appreciation. So say person A gives $100,000 in appreciated crypto, they'll pay $0 in capital gains tax, assuming maybe they got that position for $10,000. They're not paying any capital gains on it, and they're getting that $100,000 tax deduction on their tax return. Person B sells that $100,000 and then ends up they're creating a tax liability for themselves. They're going to owe $27,000, give or take, to the IRS. The rest of that can then go to the nonprofit. So that's why donating crypto directly to nonprofits, the asset itself, is so powerful. From a donor perspective, there's tremendous tax benefits. And it's important to realize that we're in a crypto bull market right now. I just talked about sort of the tax benefits of appreciated assets. And that's really when you want to strike in terms of a donation, from a donation cultivation perspective. When you have people sitting on unrealized profit that if they sold, they're going to basically create a tax liability for themselves. This is the opportunity where they're going to be able to donate those assets to nonprofits and avoid those capital gains taxes. Not to mention that, people are holding these assets are generally feeling flush, and, there's a wealth effect, and they want to give as well. So Bitcoin and other tokens are up significantly since the FTX explosion, which I'm sure everyone remembers at the end of 2022. Bitcoin got down all the way down to, I think, $16,000, and it's up a lot now. I think it's around 66 at the moment. And this chart from Glassnode just shows that the market is generally sitting on a lot of unrealized profit. If you look up in the top right corner, And that's important to know because when the market's sitting on unrealized losses, the donors don't have these same tax benefits to donating crypto directly uh, as opposed to when they're sitting on unrealized profit. So it's important to know sort of where we are in the market cycle, not from a speculation perspective, but what's going to be your donor's mentality when it comes to wanting to donate crypto assets. Second thing that's really important about this bull market is that the Bitcoin Ethereum ETFs have been a smashing success, and the biggest and most trusted asset managers are now in charge. We had FTX implosion, a lot of bad actors basically taken out of the industry, and now we have the BlackRocks, the Fidelities, et cetera, are the ones in charge of this asset class. And they came in, if you've ever Google Larry Fink Bitcoin, you'll see he has a lot of positive things to say about it. He thinks Bitcoin is going to be worth as much as the real estate market one day, which would put in the millions. Obviously they have their own interests as far as, catering to the asset class, but now we have, the biggest, most respected, trusted institutions in the space taking the reins, which is great. Future catalysts include some legal or regulatory clarity. There's always some bills kicking around in Congress, although nothing firm has been passed. There's also an exponential adoption curve, which I'll show next, actually. And then stablecoins are also a huge future catalyst. We just saw this week, 2 days ago, that Stripe acquired a stablecoin company called Bridge for $1.1 billion. It's the largest mergers and acquisition deal in crypto history. So we're talking about Stripe, the biggest player in the fintech space, the biggest player in the payment space, investing $1 billion in a stablecoin company because they realize that stablecoins are going to be a huge, important part of the future financial system. If anyone isn't familiar with what a stablecoin is, it's basically a crypto token similar to Bitcoin or Ethereum, but it's pegged to the US dollar. So if you hold $100 worth of USDC, which is a popular stablecoin, it's worth $1, and it's backed by either cash reserves or U.S. treasuries or other sort of liquid U.S. dollar denominated assets. And it just makes it really easy for people to send dollars to each other without having to work with an intermediary like a bank. Very popular in emerging markets, people who need to get access to dollars to preserve their purchasing power. If you live in a country like Argentina, where your currency is being debased or inflated away. Very important for remittances, people that want to send cross-border payments, and also people that just want to transact on crypto and be able to use these stable coins to open positions for trades or to get yield. They can lend out the stable coins and get interest, things like that. So snapshot, long story short, we're in a bull market. There's a lot of people are sitting on unrealized profit. And now, and assuming this continues, trending this way, is the time to pay attention. I mentioned earlier, crypto is growing as quickly as the internet in 1998. This is a chart from the World Bank that shows in terms of crypto adoption, we're in 1998 in internet terms. We're at a turning point. We're at an inflection point where we're going to reach 1 billion users soon, which is crazy. A16Z, the big venture capital firm, just put out their state of crypto report with an updated version of this and has very similar sort of takeaways. They're seeing the same thing. We're on an exponential growth curve in terms of user adoption, and that's not slowing down anytime soon. One important thing to note about crypto donations is that about half of them go into donor advised funds. So they're not necessarily issued to end nonprofits immediately. I mentioned Fidelity Charitable as one of the bigger players in the space. In 2021, for example, there's about $500 million in crypto donations to nonprofits, and about half of that went into Fidelity Charitable's donor advised fund. And this is important to know because from a donor perspective, since crypto does tend to be kind of come in these cycles as it moves up in value, people want to get that tax benefit immediately, the calendar year that they're sitting on this unrealized profit. But they may not necessarily want to issue grants out to every nonprofit they like immediately, right? So if with a donor advised fund, you can basically fund it with your crypto assets, get that tax benefit right now, but then you can either keep it invested or you convert it to cash and then issue grants to nonprofits over time. Like I've heard examples of people that, they'll put $100,000 of crypto in a DAF, but they don't necessarily want to give $100,000 to their church that calendar year. They want to do $10,000 a year, and they'll have a plan there to support them over time. So it's just something to keep in mind because of the cyclical nature of crypto and because of people wanting to get these tax benefits within a specific calendar year. DAFs are very popular. The big meta trend to also keep in mind is that there's $84 trillion in assets that are going to be left to the next generation from baby boomers, to Gen X, millennials, and Gen Z. And we know that Gen Z and millennials in particular way over index in terms of crypto exposure and ownership. So just thinking over the next couple of decades, as the next generation inherits these assets, where are they going to want to put them? Crypto is a very popular option. It's, compared to what baby boomers or Gen X have historically done in terms of how they allocate their assets. So why does Web3 or crypto matter for your cause? When I say Web3 and crypto, I really mean them interchangeably. Web3 is kind of a way of describing crypto in terms of like consumer apps and things like that, and these decentralized networks. Number one, it's a transformative technology to advance fundraising and organizing for social movements. I'm going to go into about 5 case studies in the second half of this call that sort of show use cases of how people are using crypto rails and blockchain networks to do really creative campaigns. Number two, crypto projects are actively seeking social impact partnerships. The same way, when you go to CVS and you round up your purchase for a donation, when you go to Amazon and you're able to make a donation on checkout, when Microsoft has the Gates Foundation and they're doing their philanthropy thing, it's good PR, it's good optics, and crypto projects do want to contribute to social impact partnerships. And so some of the case studies I'll show are that. And lastly, crypto donors that are largely millennials are looking for these tax optimization opportunities. There's people that, within a crypto cycle can have really large gains, and they want to give back. There's this sentiment, there's some research that backs it up that people that make money quickly also want to give it back quickly. Whereas if they make it slowly or inherit it, they're a little bit more stingy. So it's a good crowd to go after that are looking for tax optimization opportunities, and are ready to give back. The big opportunity at a high level, and sort of the reason that I have conviction in this asset class and why I got interested in it, is that these decentralized networks enable new organizational models that are more equitable and accessible. For me, I think there's a lot of frustration with how the big tech landscape is shaken out. There's 4 or 5 players that maybe you call them the FANG stocks or whatever, that really have a monopoly on our digital lives. If you want to launch an app in the App Store, you're going to have to pay Apple 20% of all your sales. If you want to order something online, you're pretty much locked into Amazon. If you want to use social media, you're locked into Meta. And so decentralized networks really enable an opportunity for people to sort of break out from these monopolies and sort of own their own digital life, and also get value out of it. A lot of good things about crypto is that the users get a lot of rewards and sort of ownership interest early on for using these networks. It's something that you would never really imagine happening, in Web 2. Like imagine being an early Facebook user and getting shares for referring, people to open up profiles or just using it early on. Like that's the kind of stuff happens all the time in crypto, whereas traditionally, everything's very extractive in sort of the big tech framework. So imagine getting paid. I just read a newsletter today about a new on-chain social ad network where when users see the ads, they get paid. Part of the commission, part of the ad spend from the advertiser goes to the platform, but part of it also goes to the users. So there's really exciting new models of how digital networks can be designed that are more equitable and accessible. And that's really at high level what makes crypto exciting for me. So what does crypto philanthropy look like in practice? We're going to go through a few case studies. The first two happened literally in the past week. I just wanted to put in some new ones just to kind of highlight that this kind of stuff is happening all the time. The first one is a meme coin, which is basically, a coin, a token that was launched that really at the end of the day has no real utility. It's mostly speculative, but this one was launched in a way that supported autism awareness. So it's called Darum. It was launched by a father who has a daughter with autism, and every day she just draws these geese, and the geese's name is Darum. So he launched a meme coin around that idea, and there was what's called a fair launch where people were basically able to put down, invest some Ethereum to get the token in exchange. And over 200 ETH, which is worth about $500,000, was raised from the initial mint this month. That is going to go to autism nonprofits and autism awareness. So it was a way for him to basically build this community. He launched this token. People were able to give, fund a good cause, get a token in exchange. And in some cases, so there's a speculative angle as well. It did rise in value and it's been, kind of up and down. I think it peaked at around $30 million in market cap. Now it's only at 18. I think some of the sales tax that people buy and resell goes back to, the owner and more sort of support for the autism causes. But yeah, it was basically a meme coin that are typically just kind of like 100% speculative. It was instead done in a way that supported a direct cause, which I think was really interesting. Another one that I just learned about this morning when I was reading a newsletter was one called Realm of Historia. And they're making history, their line is that making history accessible through NFTs. And what they're doing is basically publishing an NFT collection that people can purchase. I think it was about $150. And the funds are used to preserve a cultural heritage site called Karahunj in Armenia, and revenue for local artists there that designed the NFTs. Because of blockchain technology, supporters can track how their contributions aid in preserving this historical landmark, and the NFT holders get some benefits. Not only are they funding this important work of preserving this historical site and local artists, but then they have access to a loyalty program that has benefits like museums, tours, and hotels in the area, should they want to visit at some point in the future. So it's a really interesting fundraising campaign. NFTs, if you're not familiar with NFTs, that's short for non-fungible token. They're essentially tokens that are unique. Each one is unique, whereas one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin. And if we swapped our Bitcoin, it wouldn't make a difference. And the NFT is like a one-of-one token. And so even within a collection of, say, 10,000 NFTs, each one is individual. It has its own metadata attached to it. And so it's very popular to launch like artistic collections with NFTs because they all have unique features, for example. So this is just a very cool use case of how they used NFTs as a fundraising mechanism. That number one, got funds to an important cause. And then number two, gave some benefits back to the holders that they can sort of use in the future. Another example is another NFT sale for New York Cares. They raised about $200,000 through their own NFT sale. It was the Stand With Students fundraiser that benefited the schools most affected by the COVID shutdowns. They created NFTs inspired by Winston Churchill quotes using a DALL-E image generator. So they were able to bring in an AI component here, make art very affordably with AI. They didn't have to bring in an artist and pay them to make the art. They were able to use AI to do it. And basically launched this NFT fundraiser. People were able to buy the NFTs knowing that the funds went to New York Cares, and that they were using this as a special fund for some specific schools in New York City. In addition to this NFT sale, they also raised $173,000 in direct crypto donations. Because they did this and drove awareness within the crypto community. Other crypto donors just came in and decided to just give, direct donations to the organization. I think one important thing about why this campaign was successful is that Keith Grossman, who is the CEO of Time, and an NFT influencer, just like very big on the space, especially on Twitter, he was on the board of the organization. So he was someone that, really spearheaded this, put all the pieces together to make it happen. And I think it's something to sort of think about from a nonprofit perspective is like, how can you bring someone in that could be on your board? Is it worth having a crypto person on your board that maybe has some influence or connections within the space that can make a project like this, a reality for your organization? Having someone like Keith on your board, is a huge difference maker in terms of making a project like this successful. Another example is it's a nonprofit called New Story. They're building homes in Mexico and El Salvador to alleviate homelessness. They launched an NFT collection called House One Family Forever. It's a collection of 20 NFTs, each selling for 2 Ethereum. If you minted, it was basically the price was set to the point where if you minted the NFT, you bought it for 2 Ethereum, that directly funded the construction of one house. And in exchange, you now have this NFT created by the artist Brian Koo sitting in your wallet. And so this was a very art-driven collection. I think one of the things about crypto that's interesting from a donor perspective, and it applies to NFTs, but also maybe the meme coin, Darum, and other things that sit in your wallet, is that your wallet, your crypto wallet, sort of becomes a representation of your philanthropic history. It's something that people can sort of show off and say, I participated in this. I have this piece of art that is in my NFT wallet. I have an NFT gallery page. It's up there. I can get it printed and framed and have it in my office wall. I supported this cause, and these are my values, and this is what I care about. So I think that's another sort of major difference between traditional giving and crypto giving, is that with traditional giving, you swipe your credit card and you're put on an email list and ask for money every other day. Whereas in crypto, projects are really more oriented towards sort of giving the donor something back. Sort of no strings attached. It could be some tokens for a meme coin. It could be, a piece of art. It could be an NFT, et cetera. It could be a token where, you have voting rights and how the funds that are raised are used. Things like that. So there tends to be like some sort of utility that the nonprofit gives back to the holders, like the benefits I mentioned earlier for Caro Hunge, some loyalty rewards there. And the last one I want to flag is Art Blocks. They're one of the most popular NFT minting platforms. They work with artists to produce unique computer generated NFTs. Basically, like the artist creates an algorithm, and then the NFTs are basically, the algorithm then creates the art, and the NFTs are minted. And what's cool about Art Blocks is that for every collection they've done, they've partnered with a different nonprofit. The artist basically gets to pick which nonprofit some of the NFT sales proceeds go to. And in this example, this Dutch artist donated 25% of the NFT sales to Doctors Without Borders Australia, which amounted to $3.5 million. So even in cases where, you may not have the bandwidth as an organization to launch your own token or launch your own NFT collection, this is a really good example of if you know about Art Blocks, you know about the artists in their sort of future roadmap or lineup, something that you can go proactively approach them to partner with. The same way that you would do apply for a federal grant or a state level grant or a foundation level grant. Approaching these crypto projects that haven't crypto philanthropy embedded into what they do, can be on your hit list the way you think about other big sort of grant level fundraising opportunities. So real quick to summarize, I talked a lot about, the beginning, sort of the direct donation of assets to crypto organizations via Bitcoin, Ethereum, direct donations. Talked a lot about some case studies for nonprofits, which was sort of NFT centric. So there's a big landscape sort of to understand. So what I would recommend is a learn, partner, launch approach. There's a lot to learn, but there's some good things, some good resources out there that you could use. Number one is the New York Times Latecomer's Guide to Crypto. They basically did a deep dive on all different verticals of crypto, whether it's decentralized finance, Bitcoin, NFTs, DAOs, which are decentralized autonomous organizations, basically like, Reddit groups with bank accounts, basically. They do deep dives on all of those and sort of plain English approach. Really good sort of breakdown. We have community calls like this. We try and do our best to educate and answer questions, things like that. Givepact has a weekly newsletter. Every Thursday, it goes out with basically the 4 or 5 biggest stories at the intersection of crypto and philanthropy. A lot of the case studies I mentioned earlier, we'll share those in real time via the newsletter. Stories about crypto adoption, things like that. And then we have a Slack group, which is open to anyone who'd like to join. Alicia and I are in there answering questions, which everyone is welcome to join. Second is partner. Number one is donation infrastructure. We talked a lot about, Givepact at the beginning of the call. We have, since we have our own 501c3, we're able to basically accept donations on your behalf, convert them to cash and send them to you. So if you just find your page on Givepact, you can basically claim it and set up direct deposit. And we'll, accept the crypto donations on your behalf. We'll convert them to cash. We do AML, et cetera, anti-money laundering stuff, and, checking the wallets, make sure they're not on OFAC lists, et cetera. We issue the tax receipt up front. So we just take, we take a lot of the admin, heavy lifting off your plate, and you just get a cash grant from us once a month with all the cumulative donations from the previous month. Research the landscape, find out about the art blocks of the world, find out about the, the organizations that are maybe most relevant to your niche, figure out, who you may want to approach or cold email or, DM on Twitter or reach out to on LinkedIn to let them know about your organization that you're interested in helping, and doing that outreach. And lastly is launch. And so after you've learned and experimented with some partnerships, you may be in a place to actually launch your own NFT collection. Staffing that Web3 lead, or contracting with an agency, or bringing a crypto person and putting them on your board, really making it more of the fabric of your organization, and launching your own NFT collection or DAO community, et cetera. So that's it on my end. If anyone wants to come off mute and ask any questions, I'm happy to answer some. If you prefer to just put them in the chat, that's great too. But that's it from me.
Thank you very much. So one question that has been on our mind is that there's been such a slow adoption in the crypto space, and a lot of that was attributed in part due to the technical difficulties associated with setting yourself up for it. And Givepact gives you a chance, as we saw it, to sort of step in without having to go full bore into the NFTs and the memes and all the rest of that. Do we understand that correctly? Because you're saying
That's
that
right.
this year is a big year, and so that would mean we should be taking advantage of opportunities this year.
Yeah, exactly. So we've probably spoken with more than 100 nonprofits over the last couple of years, and got their feedback on how they think about crypto and how they want to sort of get involved with crypto donations. We heard that they're scared. They don't want to deal with custodying the assets. They don't want to deal with setting up exchange accounts. They don't want to deal with setting up wallets. Their CFO, doesn't thinks it's a nightmare. So what we did is basically we incorporated our own 501c3. We have our own exchange account. We accept over 30 tokens, all the big ones, Bitcoin, Ethereum, et cetera. And basically donors are going to be able to give to your organization through your Givepact page. We issue the tax receipt up front. We immediately convert the crypto to cash. So within minutes of receiving it, we convert it to cash. So it's not like, you're going to get a cash grant on the other side based on the dollar value that it was when we received it. And we do an AML check to make sure that the wallet's not on any sanction list or anything like that. So nonprofits basically went to from the point of like, we don't want to deal with crypto because it sounds too complicated. So like, oh, I get a direct deposit once a month of all my crypto gifts. Yeah, no problem. Sign me up. So yeah, Jeff, to answer your question, Givepact is a really good, easy way for nonprofits to get involved without really having to do any work. It takes about 5 to 10 minutes to claim the page, and do the due diligence. So super easy.
And what's the cost to a
Yeah, so there's
nonprofit for
no
using the
cost.
platform?
Yeah, there's no upfront cost. There's no recurring fee. Our business model is just based on a transaction fee. So we do charge a 5% transaction fee on the donation. So if someone gave $100 in Bitcoin to your organization, you would get $95 in cash on the other side. So that's our business model. There's no upfront cost to nonprofit. There's no, recurring costs. There's no fixed costs. It's purely based on transaction volume, and you're not getting billed at all. You're just getting, if you get $100 donation through the Givepact page, you're getting $95 cash grant on the other side.
Hi, Stephen. I had another question.
Yeah, please.
So, do we as a nonprofit, do we need to cultivate the actual donor, like find out who would be willing to give?
Yeah, so we try and help as much as we can, but obviously, your audience is a key component of that too. So as nonprofits come on board with us, we'll like feature them on the homepage. We do partnerships like with Joseph de Cordova, an internet bar. Like we want to figure out content marketing partnerships. We'll do stuff like this. We'll do webinars, etc. We'll do Twitter threads on your organization. And as donors come to us and express interest in certain things, like we may recommend different nonprofits. So we do try and help out as much as we can on the donor cultivation side. Obviously, we have about 50 nonprofits that have claimed pages already. So over time, we may get a little bit, spread more thin, but that does mean more attention and eyeballs for everyone on the platform. We also, when you claim your page, we have a series of automated emails and content that go out that are basically like, some tips and tricks on, generating more crypto donations. Some of that you saw in this presentation today. Some of them are really simple. I mean, clearly like doing like a newsletter to your audience saying, hey, now we accept crypto. You can go to Givepact and give, on your donation landing pages on your website, putting donate crypto and linking it to your Givepact page. We've had some nonprofits, they just put it in the footer of their website, donate crypto. And, people click on that, doing social media posts, etc. So yeah, we do try and help out as much as we can. But obviously your audience is a key component, and making sure that they're aware that you now accept crypto donations. If you have X amount of people on your email list, you may not realize that a certain percentage of them are crypto holders and they might be ready to give, but they didn't know they could. So just educating your community and us doing as much as we can on our end as well.
And for an organization, like I'll just use us as an example. I know very little about the crypto market. No one on our team does. So does it take someone on staff to really like know about
No,
this?
I wouldn't say so. I think that's sort of like the beauty of the platform. Like if you get set up on the platform, I'm not sure what organization you're with, but we can follow up via email after. You literally go to your Givepact page, you fill out you fill out the form, a few fields, you put in your bank information. You send us a void check for due diligence. We can cross-reference the bank info you put in with, a real void check, and you're good to go. So very non-technical. You don't need to be a developer or anything to get set up to accept crypto donations via Givepact. And then, like I mentioned before, like as far as like driving donors to the page, it's just like, you're hyperlinking, you're sharing on social, etc. So as far as like getting set up with Givepact, there's zero technical requirements, zero knowledge of crypto required. You can get set up to it, but then you do have the opportunity after you get set up to then say, hey, we do accept this. Go to our Givepact page to make it happen.
Okay, thanks.
So is it fair to say at this stage, if somebody was just setting up a Givepact page, that by claiming their page from your platform, that essentially what you're saying to your donors is that if you happen to have appreciated stock, we'll take it. If you happen to have cash, we'll take it. Oh, by the way, if you happen to have crypto, we'll take it. Is it really just that?
Yeah, as from a donor perspective, like individual donors, yes, it's basically saying, hey, like we accept cash, we accept stock, in kind transfers or whatever it is, but now we also accept crypto. So when you're doing your end of year fundraising emails, you're giving Tuesday emails. I would recommend that that's something you include in that outreach, so that your donors are aware. Because if you don't tell them, if you don't tell them you accept crypto, most donors are not gonna like assume you do. So it's definitely just worth saying, hey, we do accept this. So that people that maybe, have some Bitcoin in their Coinbase account or something like that might think, oh, like that's a good opportunity for me to maybe unload some of that, get some tax benefit in a bull market at the end of the year, and support an organization that I like. Realistic timeline to get fully set up on Givepact is, it takes about 5 minutes to claim the page. And then you have to send us a void check. So we can check the bank account, make sure you're not, it's part of our due diligence process to make sure people aren't putting in personal accounts. So it takes about 5 minutes to claim the page. And then we typically schedule a one-on-one call just to meet the nonprofit, partly for due diligence, partly just for onboarding purposes, to have conversations like this. So within a day or two, you'll be realistically ready to go.
The only other question I have is, if somebody is donating crypto, does that generate any special obligations that a member of your board of directors might be asking about?
So the only thing to know about crypto donations, and again, this is something that we have to deal with because we're the charitable foundation accepting the crypto, and it's actually not even something we have to deal with. Any donation of a non-cash asset over $5,000, the donor has to fill out a form 8282, I believe it's called, where they basically have to send a nonprofit their form 8282 to verify that they donated 5K or more of a non-cash asset. It's the donor's responsibility to do that. But since we're the 501(c)(3) accepting a crypto donation, we'll be the ones dealing with that, the donors directly. You're just getting a cash grant from the nonprofits on Givepact's perspective. They're just getting a cash grant from another nonprofit. Did that answer your question, Jeff?
Well, part way. Then the question really is, somebody makes a nice donation to you, which goes through you. How do we know who they are? Because we'll probably want to be in touch with them at some point.
So right now we don't have that set up, but we are adding it. It's mostly, just advice from our lawyers from again, since we're accepting donations, just protecting, excuse me, personal identifiable information, and not sharing that with third parties. But we're going to have an opt-in box where, as people are making the donation, they can basically check a box and say, I want to share my information with the end nonprofit. So just from a legal perspective, we need to have a consent layer in there. So we're adding that into the product as soon as possible, so that we can. I know nonprofits, it's a big deal to have the donor's information, and we do want to make that an opt-in process for the donors as soon as possible. But yeah, at the end of the day, again, it's a foundation to foundation gift.
Thanks.
Awesome. Any other questions before we wrap up?
I just want to thank you and Alicia for pulling this together, and we look forward to sharing it with other nonprofits and to the ones who joined us, and get the donations flowing.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. Really appreciate everyone that joined, anyone that's watching on demand. And again, if you want to follow up as far as getting your Givepact page going, my email is steven@givepact.io. But yeah, just thank you all for your time and happy fundraising.